I. Start in some column. Oh no, don't start in some column where all your information is to the left. So maybe column K. All right. Okay, so this is going to be pretty gnarly. We're going to draw this entire tree in here. All right, so I'm going to start, just like before, with the new tree. Has 2 branches. It's run, test, market, or no test, market. And the cost of running the test market was minus 100. Minus 100. B5. Let me save this because I'm waiting for it to crash now anytime. All right. Let's build the bottom tree first. It might be easier. So remember how we add? We're going to leave it as a decision node. Actually going to have only 2 branches, right? There's only 2 branches in that bottom decision node. So we'll do that. Okay. Again, you don't have to use these tools. You can just draw it by hand if you want. It has advantages and disadvantages. I guess the advantage of using the tool is you can run sensitivity analysis. So this is a national market. This is don't market nationally. We run the national market. It's minus 7 million. We don't market nationally, it's nothing. Okay, another save. And then let's add the outcome. So now I'm going to change that to an event node, and I'm going to have 3 branches because an outcome is an event. All right, and there we have it. Outcome 5, 6, 7. So, great market, great product. Did it crash? Fair product. Awful product.
It lives.
Okay, and our probabilities of these things were in which cells? They were in B17, C17, and D17. So I'm going to say equals B17 equals C17 equals D17 equals D17. Take a breather here for a second. And you catch up. We're almost done with this branch. We just have to put in the profits of the 3 options, and then we'll be done with the branch.
Question about the bottom tree here.
Yeah.
The numbers that are at the final result, what are those? The 30,
So,
100?
good question. So in each branch, it gives you an opportunity to add a cost or a profit figure, right? So for this decision, we put in that number right there, 7,000. What it's doing going forward is it's tallying up all costs in that branch, right? So it's adding 0 to 7,000, minus 7,000 and getting minus 7,000. And then again, it's adding 0, 0, and 0 and lining up with minus 7,000, minus 7,000, minus 7,000, and then it's putting that number at the very end of the branch.
Okay, so we will end up reaching 16.
Yeah, but we need to put in the profits, and we haven't done that yet. So what I'm going to do to make life a little bit easier is I'm going to multiply 18 times 600, and I'll copy this down. Is that anchored, I think? And I'll get those three numbers that we'll use over and over and over in our spreadsheet. So those are the profit or revenues, I guess, the revenues for a great, fair, and awful market. So what do I have those in? C, 11, 12, and 13. I'm going to anchor these numbers in because they're not going to change for the whole thing. So equals C11 anchor equals C12 anchor and equals C13 anchor. Pan out a little bit. So we're done with the bottom half of our tree. What's it telling us? If we don't run the test market, what should we do? Should we market the product nationally or not? If we're in the bottom branch, we're not running the test market, what should our best decision be? Should we do nothing? Okay. Should we do nothing? Well, what does this say? Decision number?
1.
Okay, decision number 1. So, and notice that the national market does have some value in this case, right? It does have some value in this case. Not very much value, 74,000, right? So it does have some value in this case. We lose money on a fair product and an awful product, right? We lose money on both, but we make enough money and there's enough weight on a great product that the weighted average of these three, right? These three, right, multiplied by these three probabilities gives us a positive, a small positive return.
So that's the number we're looking at. Is that?
Yeah,
that
and you can
value.
see that number. Right? So according to the tree we have so far, right, the best decision here is don't do a test market. Obviously we haven't filled in the top part yet. And then when we get here, the best decision is national market, right? And our expected monetary value or expected value of this decision problem right now is at 74,000. I don't know if I would risk $7 million on a $74,000 return, right? It doesn't sound very good, right?
Yeah.
So as you might expect, the results up here are going to be a lot more interesting, okay? All right, so now it's definitely time for a save. We're going to build out the top branch. Things are going to get wild. So I'm going to add an event node here, right, to represent what happens when we run the test market. What's the data we get back, right? So one of the things to remember is anytime you run a test market or gather data, the next node is probably going to be an event node because you don't know what the focus group is going to tell you, but you want to have that node because it's going to split out the tree by the data being indicating a great market, a fair market, and an awful market. So I'm going to go back to decision tree, I'm going to change to an event node, and I'm going to have 3 branches in this case. Okay, I've seen this a bunch of times. All right, and there's my 3 branches. Tree's getting a little more gnarly now. So this is a great test, fair test, an awful test, right? A great test occurs how often? Well, I think we figured that out, right? 36.9% of the time, and a fair test occurs 41.25% of the time, and an awful test 21.85% of the time. Okay, there's no cost. We don't have to pay anything for our results because we already paid for our test, so there's no cost to getting the results. No profit either. There's nothing sold, right? So, all right. Now the nice thing is, we've already built this whole tree. We're just going to copy it 3 times and plop it on there. Okay. So here's the thing. When Excel does these kinds of copies and moves, it's not that easy for Excel to do. So this is where it's likely to crash, in my opinion. Although we haven't been having that problem. Right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here to this node and select it. Just the node, I hope. There we go. So the decision tree software and say copy subtree. So I'm going to copy this entire object. And hopefully it's going to work. Okay. And then I'm going to go up here to the top leaf, and I'm going to say paste that subtree. And I'm going to get this error like 99 times. Something happened. Okay. Let me get this text out of here first. All right, let's see what happened here. So we have a great test. We still have to make the decision about a national product or not. Great, fair, awful. Got some errors, but that's because our probabilities don't sum up to 1 right now. So where do we get these probabilities from? We get these probabilities from right here, right? Remember, when we have a great test, our great, fair, and awful probabilities are changed. So it's going to be in row 22, G, H, and I. Row 22, G, H, and I. Let's do it. G, 22, H, 22, and I, 22. Because I was careful with anchoring, we forgot one thing here. We forgot to anchor the cost of the national market. I knew something was up. Right, so where was that cost? That was in
B13?
No, B6.
B6.
The cost of the national market, B6. Okay, so to show you the answer to your question from before, Erica, we run the test market, it costs us 100, right? The results don't cost us anything. We run the national market, it costs us 7,000, so we're down 7,100. We have a great product, we get 10,8 back, so 10,8 minus 7,100 is 3,700, okay? Then what it does is, at every node where we have 3 payoffs, right, it rolls it back, right? So it takes this number by this number, this number by this number, this number by this number, adds them up, some product, that's 2330, right? Actually, I'm sorry, it takes these numbers by these probabilities, this by this, this by this, this by this, gives us 2330, right? Between 2330 and minus 100, what would you pick? You'd pick 2330, decision number 1, right? You get back here. It takes the 2330, and the other 2 branches are 0 and 0, and it does the weighted average of those by these probabilities, and it gives you 796. Right, so here it's taking 2330, and it's taking these weights, 2330 times this, minus 100 times this, minus 100 times this, and it's giving you 79, 76. And then it's saying between 79, 76, and 74, which one would you take? Obviously 79, 796, 76.
The only thing I'm getting an NA on is the 796
Right here?
boxes, yeah.
So you have to make sure that this probability plus this probability plus this probability adds up to 1. Right? And I grabbed G16, G17, and G18 for those 3 cells. Is that adding up to 1?
My eyeballs don't work.
Okay. Check this over here. How about your probabilities over here? Do you have G22, H22, and I22?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a number here?
Yes.
Okay. So your problem has to be in these probabilities right here. G16, G17.
Yeah, I'm missing
G18.
a leaf there. I only have fair and awful.
Yeah.
Great went away.
Yeah. So once you, the probabilities have, if you look at this function, right, it's hard to see, but if you look at that function closely, what it's saying is, if this value doesn't add up to 1, basically, then it's going to give you an NA reply back. So there's a check to make sure that the 3 probabilities add up to 1 across that branch. All right, let me make sure I'm going to make sure that my cost here is anchored this time. So when I copy this, I won't have to enter that again. The only thing I'll have to enter is the probabilities for the next branch down. So I'm going to do this again. Are we ready, or we have more questions?
Ooh, yeah, can we pause just for
Okay, catch up for a second. Okay. Let me know if you have any particular cell questions.
I don't know what to do to get mine back on track here.
Let's see.
I think I just copied something down wrong, but see how I don't have the 3.
Oh yeah.
And then I accidentally screwed some up here.
Yeah, there you go. Just leave that alone. Don't mess with any rows or columns or hide anything. What's that right there? What's going on there?
So I tried to like I clicked this one and I tried to add another decision to it, but then it popped it over here, and when I press back, it's not taking it away.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to help you. That's a good example of how this thing. Why don't you try this? Try see what happens. Save it first. See what happens if you can delete that. So go up to decision tree. Say, yeah, try that. It's probably going to remove the whole thing.
If it does, it's okay. It'll be easier.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, now it took you only to the bottom tree. I would close it and reopen and try another option, but
Okay.
Yeah, you have to be that. One of the things that's very unforgiving with those kinds of things, if you add something in the wrong place, it's
If
hard
it
to go
helps
back.
though, I get it. Like I get the concept now, so
Yeah, very hard to go back.
still.
Ready to go on? Still checking? We're close. We got 2 more big branches to add, but we're close, right? We've done this. We've done this. We got to do these 2. I'll tell you what, Erica. I will save mine. Call it partial, and I'll upload it in case you're really stuck. You guys can use mine.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Okay, it should be there now.
Thanks.
Shall we go? Shall we go next? All right, let's try it. I'm going to copy this entire subtree, this upper thing that I've built. Again, I got to select the node, just the node, not the cell. There we go. I'm going to go to add-ins, decision tree. I'm going to copy this entire subtree, this whole thing. And I'm going to paste it down on top of this leaf right here. Because we basically have the same decision path. Let's give it a try. So decision tree, paste subtree, go. Okay, I got the same error a million times, and finally it works. Now again, you can see it gives you an NA in various places, and the reason it's giving me an NA is because I anchored all these costs and everything, right? I anchored all these costs and profits, but I didn't anchor the probabilities. So since the probabilities don't sum to 1 right now, right? So I need to put in these probabilities there, 28, 48, and whatever that last one is, 22 or 24. 28, 48, and 24, whatever they were. They're right here actually in cells G23 through I23. So the first one is G23, the next one is H23, and the next one is I23. All right. So looking at what happens when we run the test market, right, and we get a fair result, right? If we get a fair result, you can see the decision is decision number 2. So a fair test result is going to tell us, hey, you know what? Don't bother to market this product nationally. It's not good enough. Because if we do market it nationally, we're going to have a loss. So a fair test result alters these probabilities enough that it doesn't look good to market it nationally anymore, so don't bother with it. So we'll eat the 100 that would cost us to run the test, but we're not going to lose any more additional money. All right, and last but not least, I'll take this same tree, I'll copy it, I'll remember to save before I do something stupid. I'll go to the last leaf, the results of the awful test, I'll paste it, and I'm almost done. I've got the awful test. As you might imagine, the awful test is going to be the same as the fair test. If I get an awful test, I'm not going to bother with things. It looks like it's on the probabilities for the awful test. The posterior is on row 24. So let me put those in. So it's G24, H20, equals G24. Equals G24 equals H24 and equals I24. Equals I24. All right. And not surprisingly, the best decision for when you get an awful test is to not market nationally. So I'm going to go out a little bit to show you everything we've done.
Can you save the sheet?
Of course. Definitely, and I'm going to give it to you right after class. Got it. I can even give it to you right now, in fact. So let me do that. Because whether or not you have tree plan, you can still use this because it's just functions in Excel. Save as. Okay, I'm going to call this almost done. All right. All right, so you can see if we go out, let's go out a little bit just to see the general flow of the tree. That's too far out probably, but this gives you sort of the general feeling, right? You see the decision here, the outcome of the test, 3 branches. Each case you have a decision of whether to market the product nationally. If you decide not to run the test, you decide right away whether to run the product nationally or not. So that tree on the board and this tree are the same thing. If you got totally very lost, there's a, right down here, there's Acme Marketing Decisions text almost done. You can download that and open it, and you can have the same tree of your very own.
Are we gonna do one of these funsies for the final?
Yes, you're gonna do one of these funsies for the final. I like your attitude. Okay? I like your attitude. This is essentially the final. Okay? So
just a part of it.
well, you need to read the problem. You need to sort of develop the tree. You need to figure out which probabilities are connected to which events. You need to run Bayes' theorem. I'll let you draw the tree by hand if you want to draw it by hand. If you don't want to use the software, that's fine. The one nice thing about the software is, and I'll show you in a minute, I can change probabilities and things, and the answer will automatically change. But you can do it all by hand.
The final is only about this topic.
Only about this topic. Correct.
Oh,
Yeah. What we've talked about since yesterday at 2:30 until now. That's correct.
Cool.
cool.
I'm not really a cumulative final person. I mean, I did notice though that I was really impressed with your performance on the quiz, because it seems like having something twice, you guys did a really good job on the quiz generally. So I was really impressed by your performance on the quiz. So learning something twice doesn't hurt, I guess is what I'm saying. But, all right, so let's do this. We've been kind of going for a while. Maybe some people are stuck or want like a little bit of help. Let's take a little break, and then we'll come back and finish the class off, finish the in-person piece off.